Page 3 now, Obama's war that's not a war, the fallout. Be afraid, be very afraid if you are a U.S. citizen traveling abroad. That is the message from the Obama White House right now. The global travel alert is an early Christmas present from Team Obama as the contained Islamic State terrorists continue to grow and spread fear. This is more than 25 million Americans have or had plans to travel through New Year's.
I want to travel to Jamaica, but I can't now. I'm scared. So I won't be traveling there.
Especially after what's happening in Paris and all of that. But sometimes it can get to, like the hype can get people too scared and not enjoy the holidays.
I think in general, Homeland Security does a really good job, and I'm not that worried about it. And you really can't worry about it, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know, you got to live your life. Like they said, we can't let the terrorists win.
So, among the fallout of the travel alert, travel-related stocks are falling, including Air New Zealand, Qantas, and Cathay Pacific. So how bad will the damage be from this global travel alert, which remains in effect through February? Joining me now from Southern California, President of Wilsey Asset Management, Brent Wilsey. Brent, when the United States government, State Department comes out and issues a travel alert like this, a global travel alert, it has serious consequences, serious ramifications economically speaking.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the airlines, they were down as much as 3-4% here in the United States, and it could be the start of a turn for the airlines. The airlines have done well the last year and a half because of falling oil prices. Well, now they're getting a double whammy as the stopping of travel. And what people are going to do, people are going to say, like that one woman, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I don't need to do it. Also think about businesses saying, you know what, we don't want to send our executives across the country right now if we don't have to. They'll cut back. And also, too, let's not forget about the hotels. Yep. Hotels, too, like, well, wait a minute, where are these people going? They're not coming here any longer. So it is going to affect the economy, and I think it could be the end of the nice ride that airline stocks and hotel stocks have had. Yeah,
the busiest travel time of the year to boot. So we have Janet Yellen coming out and defending, I guess some folks were criticizing her, and the Fed and her predecessor and his predecessor about these extremely low, historically low interest rates, and that they might actually be causing damage rather than helping. Now, she comes out and she says, oh, but it's created millions and millions of jobs. But on the other hand, doesn't do very much for CDs and savings accounts.
Right, in CDs and savings accounts, the rates are so low, and again, she's defending that because she has to be careful. And people don't realize how hard it is being the head of the Federal Reserve, because if they move too fast, too much, then you put the economy back into a recession, and we don't want that to happen. Right. So it is kind of a slow, gradual movement, and maybe, I'm pretty confident in December they will raise, but maybe they don't because they're not seeing good data. But gosh, you've got a good job market, good economy. GDP came out today at 2.1, ahead of the estimate of 1.5. So I think they will definitely raise, but you got to be careful. You raise too quick and too much, you'll put the economy back into recession.
But how do you define good these days? It seems as though over the last 7 years, Brent, that we have been dumbed down on what good is. A good jobs report is now around 200,000, and I think we need at least that number just to sustain new folks coming into the workforce, do we not?
Well, actually, no, the unemployment rate is around 5.1%, and my favorite report, the JOLTS report, which is a job openings labor turnover survey, came out, and it shows that there was 5.370 million jobs created or openings, much higher than the 5.37 million last month. And they also point out, too, that it is getting harder to find good employees because the labor pool is kind of shrinking. A lot of people are working. And what this is going to do, it's going to cause wage inflation, because you're going to have employees saying, well, gee, I want a raise. Sorry, I'm going to give you one. Fine, I'll go to Joe Smith and work for him. So it is creating some things. We will have inflation coming along, and the economy is doing pretty well. The economy GDP third quarter would have been better, except there was a build in inventories, and the strong dollar is hurting our exports.
But of course, they tend to revise that one down a few months later, too. So I hate to be the negative Nelly here. And we also, by the way, we have the largest number of people not in the labor pool, too. So that affects that unemployment number because they're not even counted on the government's radar. But when we go back to Janet Yellen, real quick, she has said that negative interest rates are not off the table. Of course, we saw this experiment in Europe, and I think there's a Swiss bank that is now applying it to consumers. So, it's not just the business level, the corporate level, it's now being applied to consumers. Do you think we'll ever see it here?
Well, you can't say never, but I really hope not, because that would be a terrible thing on the economy. Because think about what happens. Negative interest rates, the bank has to pay people to bring their money in there. Well, the bank's profits will go down. And right now, banks are doing well because they're looking for higher interest rates to increase their net interest margin as a benefit. The opposite would be true, too. If you got to pay people to have your money there, that's going to hurt them. And also what it does, too, Graham, is it prevents people from putting the money in the bank, and therefore the bank can't loan money out. So you can't get that money washed around the economy. So it's a bad thing to do, and the economy can hurt it quite a bit.
And people will withdraw, obviously, their holdings and pay off loans. They're not going to leave it in the bank if they have to pay to have their money there. Now, oil, real quick, of course, we have a mess going on in the Middle East. Look for oil prices to go up.
Yes. I mean, oil prices are up about 3% today. And again, the turmoil, we've got to think the Middle East is so fragile. It's like glass. It can break very easily. And any little thing that happens, that's going to send oil prices up, because the concern is they're going to hit the oil fields, and therefore they do that. That's going to stop this nice flow of oil that we have. So it's a very fragile thing. I've always said the Middle East is a fragile place, and now we're starting to seeing that kind of unfold. And there's fear about copycat terrorism activities and so forth. So I think oil by January could be up probably at least 10 to 15%. Is a good possibility.
All right, I'm flat out of time, but speaking of January, real quick, what is the overall historic effect of an election year stock market? Of course, we're going into a presidential election year 2016. What does the market typically do? Well,
the stock omega says that in the third year, that's the best year, and that kind of flows into June. You generally have positive years and so forth, I think like 80% of the time. The last year, it is really not good, because what happens around July, August, the election comes closer, and you get these candidates, who's going to win, who's not going to win. So it moves more on the candidates, not on the fundamentals of the market. So I think it'll be good to probably like June. After that, you're going to start seeing some more volatility, and we'll probably see something we don't get used to seeing, but a 10% market correction perhaps in the summer of 2016.
Of course, it all depends on who wins in November of 2016.
And
Brent?
And then we're talking 2017.
Yes, that too. Brent, thanks.
You're welcome.
Coming up next, stop the tape. Importing Sharia law disguised as so-called Syrian refugees. Also ahead, the Arizona sheriff who has had enough of the illegal immigrant invasion.
I would say to the president, do your job, what is clearly defined in the Constitution, and don't exceed that. Secure the border.